What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another Wheat Thins FC video. Today we are going over game weeks 1 through 25. I'm really excited. It's an international break for the next week and a half. Games start tomorrow. I'm recording this on the Wednesday, and we got a couple of games coming tomorrow for the Asian World Cup qualifiers and the European Nations League and the South American World Cup qualifiers. And so it's just a great time with club football on hold to sort of do a basic strategy review for me. And the nice part is Sorare reset all the game week numbers, so we have an easy review set for game weeks 1 through 25, which basically are like game weeks 500 plus something. So we will be going through starting at game week number one. And it's really nice for me because we're gonna take a look at some of my best performing game weeks. I want to take a look at those lineups that performed really well in those game weeks. And then let's take a look at the strategy. Is it working for me? If we're at some sort of what I would consider to be maybe a third of the way through, or a quarter of the way through this season, what does that strategy look like moving forward? You know, we're headed into the festive period for Premier League, and so we're going to see games coming, in the midweeks and on the weekends, and there's going to be a lot of rotation. There's already been a lot of injuries with different players and different things going on with teams. So let's take a look at some of my best performing game weeks, and we're going to just see what those strategies look like and how we're performing. So let's get right into it. And we're going to start here with game week number one. It's a very basic game week in my opinion, but it's a really great place to start because if you look up top here, and we're going to use Sorare data for most of this, and we might cross check it against what it looks like on Sorare, but probably not. We'll probably just stick right on this platform for this. We can see all of our performances and some of our top scores. So you can see here our best current score didn't even get us anything. This was a no reward for Div 1 for Premier League Classic. We scored a 410 points in Div 1 and we got 46th, no reward. But in season, Div 3, we had 340 points. We got 21st. We got a reward of $60.52. Now, Sorare data does not show whether or not these got boxes for rewards, and I'm assuming this did get a box because we've got 6 boxes up here. But we can take a look at the strategy for this, and this is hilarious to me because this is my top performing lineup, and it's a full stack of Prem players from the same team, and they didn't even keep a clean sheet. So very funny to me, but the top performance this week only scored 61 points better, so a 473 maybe, and we're off and running all the way home. We're going to keep scrolling really quickly. We full stacked again. We got 144th. Super interesting there, but we get 2 decisives here and we get a clean sheet, which is super important to note just to kind of keep track of mentally. And then again, our Div 2 lineup, we've run this stack pretty frequently with De Bruyne, Gvardiol, and Ederson paired with Guimaraes and Anthony Gordon. No decisives here. But we also don't fall out of this division. So not too terrible. And as you'll see, we keep going down. We do okay here in rare. And then the winning lineup is another chance at a full stack, but we obviously put in Christopher Nkunku. If we don't put Nkunku in here and we put in Heung-min Son, who you saw in the above lineup, I have a feeling we're looking very high at the top of this division here, which would have been, $100+ plus. So not a terrible game week to start, and it really kind of moved us in the right direction. And we can get into some of the other lineups if you will, but you'll see here at the top, Bukayo Saka, Josko Gvardiol. It looks like Rodrigo plays well for me. Pedro Porro plays well. Lamine Yamal shoots an 81. Lewandowski shoots an 81. So even if we go and let's take a look really quickly at these lineups down here. Gundogan, my captain, doesn't play. Ter Stegen does terribly. Balde does terribly. Kunde does terribly. Lamine Yamal does well. So just kind of a funny game week. This game week did terribly as well. And then rare here, nothing really going on despite PSG having a 4-1 win. Nuno Mendes doesn't play. No clean sheet kind of ruins it for us in champ. And there's no League 1 specific competition to play in. So we're going to jump ahead really quick and we're going to go to game week 3, which is basically the next weekend, but this is, in my opinion, my best performance in the Premier League that I've had so far this season, and I'll show you why. We obviously score fourth here, you can see, with 510 points. We get a star player. We get another 49th tier 4 in Champ Classic. And then anti stacks, we played a special competition here. We get a 415. But if you take a look across the board, to have 5 lineups, and we'll cover all 5 really quickly, all score above 400 points is pretty solid in my opinion. So let's take a look at the top lineup. Here you're going to see we just miss out on podium by 2.73 points, and 13.4 points wins us the entire division. And this is Div 1 limited. So that would have been insane. And for a minute there, we held on to first place, I believe. Obviously, I think we lost. I think Cole Palmer goes off on this same weekend, and somebody stacks Cole Palmer, Heung-min Son, and Romero with, I think, David Raya or somebody. But it's a great stack by them to win it. Speaking personally, this is the same stack we just ran, substituted Mickey Van de Ven for and Pedro Porro. Van de Ven gets an assist here. They win 4-0 at home against Everton. I mean, every single player picks up a decisive. Our captain picks up 2. It just was a great lineup from me and very happy about it. Obviously, I think we're at least these two, Madison and Heung-min Son, both now being level 20 cards. So when they go off, we're getting the maximum amount of points. We're getting that extra 10%, which is phenomenal, plus the full percent for the collection bonus. Here we get a 6-0 win for PSG. Kolumuani does nothing, and this is where this is on me. I should go get a Bradley Barcola card because if PSG are going to continue to go off this season, and we'll take a look at it, Bradley Barcola is the other player that goes off. And this is a great lineup to have. Certainly Nuno Mendes. You could go get an Achraf Hakimi, I believe. He scores 100 in this game too. Joao Neves is another great player. But Dembele, Barcola, Zaire Emery, we have Nuno Mendes and Donnarumma doing fantastic. Lee Kang-in even comes off, which I didn't play him in this game because I didn't think he was going to start. I thought Kolumuani would have started. I do remember this game because I think it was played on a Friday ahead of the rest of the games on the weekend, and they dominated. But we do pretty well for Champ Classic Div 2. Obviously, 457 points is crazy. Again, another great performance here. De Bruyne 4-1 versus Ipswich, but we just don't keep that clean sheet for Ederson. And then we only get a decisive from Anthony Gordon, but 70 points out of Bruno Guimaraes without a decisive is pretty solid. A 2-0 win here for Liverpool. So you're taking a look at a really strong game week in the Prem, in which not only do we do well here, this is 225th with 422 points, but we got a 510 pointer at the top of this division. So really, really phenomenal. We do well here too. We get a card here, and you're looking again. Bukayo Saka gets an assist. Diogo Jota gets an assist. Clean sheet for Paco. Destiny Udogi does well. Doesn't get a decisive, but 64 points. And even Neto plays in goal for David Raya and keeps a clean sheet. So phenomenal. Even here, this is a 388 pointer. For the Bundesliga, we get 2 decisives from Florian Wirtz and another decisive from Xavi Simons. 36th in La Liga Classic, we get a decisive out of Militao, a clean sheet for Oblak, which we've then sold. Lenormand, pre-injury, they keep a clean sheet. We just don't get any decisives for Lino and Alvarez. But again, nothing to be really that upset about. Richarlison and Brennan Johnson don't get decisives, but Madison and Van de Ven and Vicario do, which keeps us, lurking in and around at the top of the division for this one. And even here, we get a 2-1 win. We just don't keep that clean sheet, so the double defender stack with Ter Stegen doesn't really do anything for us early in the season. But let's keep it moving. We got a lot to cover. I want to get through all this, so we're gonna jump quickly to game week 8, which is a ways back, but 5 game weeks on. So here is just a different review of my strategy, and this is really interesting. This is an international game week, and we've got one of these coming up, and I think it's important. Well, we're actually currently in the international break, so it's kind of timely to take a look at this and just sort of review, in my opinion, how some of these players are performing in the international break. It's hard to judge a player like Trent Alexander-Arnold because he pulled out of this game or the international break this time. But when he played, he got 100 points and he had 43 AA in a 2-0 win against Finland. Obviously, he picks up the clean sheet, which helps, but he gets 3 points is all for a defender. 3 points is all for a one tackle. Doesn't do anything else in defense in the international week because England are just absolutely dominating Finland, so he doesn't have to. 8.4% or 8.4 points in possession, but then 22 points in attack. And this is where a player like Trent, if you're going to be a ball dominant team, Trent is just going to absolutely help. And we obviously keep the clean sheet with Pickford, which I'm sure he probably wasn't even the highest scoring goalie. He keeps the clean sheet, but he only gets 3 points of AA because he got one sweeper keeper, not even any saves, which that's so funny. But regardless, we do well. Florian Wirtz doesn't get a decisive in a tough game. It looks like they played the Netherlands to a 2-2 draw. DePaul and Argentina is always a tough one. They've got 5 midfielders that kind of play in these spots. They've got DePaul, Enzo Fernandez, McAllister, and now Giovanni Lo Celso's really come on this season. So they all sort of rotate. Paredes gets in there too, as you can see. Nico Gonzalez, I don't think is really in part of that mix. He plays as a wide midfielder usually, and DePaul plays off in the middle. But regardless, and then we captain the right player. Heung-min Son, I feel like in these international game weeks, it's just so obvious, but some of the Asian players that are already fantastic, in my opinion, in Europe and in these big teams and big leagues, when they go home, I mean, we're talking they're playing Kuwait or these different countries that just they can't compete with the players like Heung-min Son, and obviously here he's playing Oman to a 3-1 game. And when we take a look at this, you'll see I don't know if he actually played Cam. I think he played as a striker here, but he and Lee Kang-in and Hwang Hee-chan all do fantastic. All three of these players, and Kim Min-jae does not do well, but all these three players, the attackers, all play for big teams in Europe. Hwang Hee-chan plays for the smallest team in Wolves, and he still gets a goal, and he scores 71 points. Heung-min Son gets 2 assists and a goal. Lee Kang-in with an assist. And so it's just one of those opportunities where if you see these matchups, or if I see these matchups, I get really excited because I know that they're going to score well. And we'll talk about some other things, but here, same thing. We put both of them up, and they both do really well. Mate Kovar, 3-2 win against the Ukraine. John Stones played Finland, like we talked about, scored 89 points, which is fantastic. And then Julian Alvarez sort of missed the mark. But we played All Star, which is really interesting for me. I don't play a lot of All Star anymore just because I think if I have players that belong to specific competitions like Prem or La Liga, or in some cases even under 23 rare, where the player pool is limited, if those players go off, they have more of an impact in a division where the player pool is limited versus All Star, where it's a free for all and anyone and everyone can play. And so obviously, I try and prioritize those lineups. And you see, we had some success here. We get 2 cards, 3 boxes for playing 6 competitions. That means we hit in 50%. That's a pretty great game week from my perspective. So we're going to jump right into it. Game week 9, we're back from the international break and we hit the ground running. We score 440 points in La Liga Classic. And this is a stack that I have now run minus Ter Stegen pretty consistently. A full stack of Barcelona players this season. Kunde, Pedri, Yamal, Lewandowski. I have run those four plus, well, now it's Inaki Pena fairly consistently, and they've done great. And I'm very, very happy about that. So they're doing fantastic. I am playing in La Liga Division 1, and it's tough to try and pick between Lewandowski and Yamal right now, who captains the side. I think Yamal is actually hurt at this given moment and won't play for Spain, but it's always important to me to get this lineup in. And I've actually struggled to really identify players to substitute in here. I think Danny Olmo or uh, Mark Casado in the midfield with replacing Pedri is a great shout, other than the fact that Danny Olmo got hurt pretty quickly. Now he's back, but we'll see if he starts to start more games. We also have a Fermin card who's done pretty well off the bench. He just came back from injury. So we have some midfield options to replace. And we have like a Camavinga card for La Liga as well for the midfield. But it's hard to sort of judge, at least from my perspective, when we look at the strategy of the La Liga competitions for Rare, how to replace a player like Pedri and some of those things. Jules Kounde's scores have sort of fallen off of late, but we can kind of talk about that. But here we'll take a look. So he's fallen off a little bit here, and I have noticed this pretty obviously. Obviously, it's hard to judge when he scores or gets three assists here, a hat trick of assists in the Champions League, but he has fallen off a little bit elsewhere. You can just kind of tell, and we're hoping maybe he can regain some of these darker greens that you see further back. Obviously, these ones are for France, so that's a little bit different, but I guess I'm talking more about these ones. 71, 70, 60, 60. Some of these 52 even, or the 89 up here. Again, that's for France, but we're hoping he can pick up some of that form. Otherwise, we might need to start looking at something like a Pau Kubarsi, who scores pretty consistently high, or an Inigo Martinez, and we can get into those pieces too. So we'll cover those, but I wanted to cover this one. This is my best La Liga finish this season, and I'm pretty happy about that. I really am very excited about continuing to try and get better at La Liga. I've really enjoyed watching not just Real Madrid because they have Mbappe this season. They've struggled a little bit, but I think they'll figure it out. I've really enjoyed watching Barcelona with their team. I just think Hansi Flick has that team firing, and they're doing fantastic. So I enjoy watching that stack and I enjoy playing that stack. And sort of, I guess that's the other part for me is I enjoy that. So let's get into the next game week. Here we have game week 11. You'll see up top the obvious reason why I'm showcasing this game week is we score another 500 pointer. So right at the top, you'll see Div 1 limited. We get 20th overall, 505 points. We get a tier 2 card. This is another phenomenal game week for me. And you'll see right past the 456 pointer for this Premier League Classic, we get 9th in the division with 453 points in rare, which I'm trying to get better at rare. This is Premier League in season, so this is going to be my Tottenham stack before I even look at it. I know it's the only in season rare Premier League that I'm running, so we can take a look at it, but you can see we full stack again. Allison's out, so we played Kelleher. 93 points is just insane, but Trent gets a decisive. Alexis McAllister plays well. We captain Mo Salah, who's not even the right captain here. Actually, the right captain would have been Kelleher because he had 93. And this is just hilarious to me because this has kind of been my strategy is sort of to go all or nothing on one team each time. And I don't know if it's really working out, but you can see when it works out, it really works out. And I am getting rewarded for that, which is fantastic. So similarly, right below that, you'll see that next score that we sort of skipped over, but a full stack for Tottenham. and we're 0.28 points away from reward, but we definitely got essence for this, I know. And we pick up 150.8 points on the captain, 91 points for James Madison, who scores a goal. We just don't keep the clean sheet. And I think if we'd have kept that clean sheet, we're probably talking, top 15 in here and we're getting a card. But we did full stack, and you can see here even we full stack. We full stack, and we are 8 points away from the next tier. Maybe there's an opportunity to try and find another classic season card to put into this full stack, and so we could, maybe use one of these cards elsewhere. But a full stack here with Tottenham players. Obviously, we captained the wrong person, but not really that wrong. 91.4 to 92.5. We're maybe missing out on 2 points here, which obviously wouldn't have done anything when we're 8 points off the next level. And you can see we're still struggling in under 23. We haven't done anything in under 23. We'll get into it here in a second, but we did pretty well for this game week. So let's jump ahead. We'll take a look at game week 13. Another $100 and a tier 1. So this is one of my highest finishes in terms of points on the platform since I started playing Sorare at the beginning of last calendar, well, not calendar, but football season. So back in August of 2023, this is one of my highest performing points weeks. And obviously, you can see there's decisives everywhere here. Not only do we keep a clean sheet with Gulaxi, he gets a penalty save. So he has a great score. David Raum, who's now hurt, gets an assist, keeps a clean sheet. Xavi Simons, who's now hurt, two decisives, goal and an assist. Sesko, 2 goals and an assist. Openda, goal and an assist. And we captained almost the right player again, so we get 148 points. We could have captained Raum in this lineup, but again, we're just missing the podium, so fourth through seventh doesn't really do anything to me. I'm not upset. We get a tier 1 out of this. I was very happy with this performance. I thought this was great. I even watched this game, and I was so happy watching this game, knowing I had this full stack and could support Leipzig in this way was really, really cool for me. So that's that game week. And I guess we can jump down here to the $100 points. We're up to Division 2 now, so you saw in that previous one, we were in Div 3 still. Now we're in Div 2 for in-season rare. And we full stack again. The only thing we changed here was Heung-min Son in this lineup, and I believe he didn't do that well. He didn't even play, actually. That's probably why we didn't play him. Timo Werner played, and so we played Brennan Johnson, Solanke, Madison, and I can't be upset with that. I'm pretty happy with this performance here. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to play a Kulusevski. I didn't have the card at the time. I still don't have it, and I don't have a Romero who played a little bit better either. So this was the best I could do in this performance, and I'm pretty happy with that. So you'll see that. And then let's jump into the next game week, which is all the way in game week 21. So let's take a look here. Okay, game week 21. This is one of those game weeks where I just missed. And I think now that I've started recording some of these videos to sort of just track my progress in different things, I have found that these game weeks I really want to take a look at from a strategy perspective. So you can see we get a number of decent performances, and we have a lot of performances that just miss, right? So we have a 17th, a 102, a ninth, and then a 41st, a 540, a 179. And so when we talk about some of these performances, I just want to take a look at what's not working. And when we take a look at a performance like this is a triple decisive. We get 3 decisives. Yamal Lewandowski gets 2. We keep a clean sheet, but we're just missing the mark. And this is where, do I go and buy a Rafinha, who obviously is the highest performer here? I don't know that that solves it for me. I think, this is just an unlucky miss on my behalf. And I'll tell you exactly why. We have Alejandro Balde, and in this lineup, we just didn't play him. We put him in the academy where you do the training. Um, and it was just a funny situation where if we play Balde, he's the highest performer on the entire team for Barcelona, which is funny to look at, but it's true. And when we review this, we're missing out on 40 points for between Kunde and Balde. And when you go take a look here, that would have put us on the podium and gotten us a tier 1 in Div 1 Classic. And so it's just kind of one of those things where when we start talking about how am I playing the game, do I need to start taking chances on players like Balde, who are, for the most part, locked in starters for Barcelona, but they're different players to a Jules Koundé, who's a more known performer. Obviously, Balde really doesn't put up scores like this very often. We can take a look at the player himself, and I usually would prefer to play this player in a way that means that he's going to get, into under 23. But you can see this is by far and away, this is his highest performance in a very long time. And, he's got a 60 and a 64 versus if we take a look at Kunde, who I actually just dropped that tab. Let's pull Kunde back up. If we take a look, Kunde scores. Kunde scores frequently high points, and we've talked about these being for France, but there's even back into last season, there's some 79s and 80 and 88, a 70. There's much higher average scoring. And so I think the safe option for me is to play a player like a Jules Koundé, but sometimes I think there is an opportunity to be different when it comes to building my lineups and taking a chance on a player that I know is going to start that maybe has a chance to go off. And, I didn't here. And obviously, we can't be upset with this. This is 17th in Division 1. But there was an opportunity to make the podium that we just missed out on. So I did want to cover this one. And it's just kind of a funny situation. But it brings us all the way, ladies and gentlemen, to now game week 26, where we're back to another international break. So, really quickly, I just want to cover these lineups for you. Here's what we're looking at tomorrow to kind of hopefully win some rewards. But we've talked about England versus a team like Greece, international break. They're going to be ball dominant. Hopefully, we have a chance to do well with Jude Bellingham. Heung-min Son's captaining again because I covered this earlier in the video. They're playing Kuwait. How could you not captain a player like that against a side like Kuwait? And then we've got different lineups here with Argentina stacked a little bit here. And we've got another Brazil player in Bruno Guimaraes who usually scores pretty well, even on international. This is basically just a hodgepodge of players, but even the piece on Heung-min Son applies to a player like Wataru Endo. We're talking about a great player that plays for Liverpool, and their Japan, who is a good team, is playing Indonesia. And I've never seen Indonesia play, and I don't know a single player that plays on their team. But I can only hope that Japan absolutely dominates this game. And I was thinking about picking up a Takafusa Kubo and a Ritsu Don for this game. I would also pick up a Minamino card or a Mitoma card. Any of these players that play for these bigger clubs in Europe, including Wataru Endo, I think have a really great shot at just going off against a team like Indonesia. And so we're going to hope that stack does really well. Here's one of our rare stacks. We obviously are going French here pretty heavily. Kunde, Camavinga, and Nkunku playing Israel. And then Donnarumma versus Belgium. I don't really know how they're going to do. But then we've also got this stack down here where we talk about, again, Kang In Lee, Heung-min Son playing Kuwait. Rico Lewis, ball dominant against Greece. I hope he plays that Trent Alexander-Arnold role, and I hope he kills it. And we've got players like, I don't know why it doesn't show up for him, but Dembele is playing Israel, and I think he'll start as well. So those are the lineups for this week. If you made it to this far in the video, please hit the like button. It means a lot and it would be awesome. And obviously, we will hopefully get some more rewards. And I hope you appreciate this different kind of video. The strategy is really interesting. Like I said, we've gone pretty much full stack. I think it's worked at times, maybe it hasn't at others, but hopefully we can continue to progress, learn a little bit more as we go, and hopefully continue to get better at this game. Thanks for watching, y'all. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.